All right, good morning, everybody. It's 8:30. We'll call this morning's meeting of the Clay County Board of Commissioners to order for Tuesday, March 11th. Our first item is the approval of the agenda, and we will note that item number 11 on the agenda will be canceled for today.
I will make a motion to approve the agenda with item 11 being canceled.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Citizens to be heard. Do we have any citizens to be heard in the audience today? Any citizens to be heard on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, do any online?
We do not, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We will move then to the approval of bills and vouchers.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills and vouchers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Approval of minutes from February 25th.
Move for approval of the minutes from February 25th.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. And just to note that this morning Commissioner Krabenhoft is working with in Washington, D.C. on behalf of CAP LP, which is one of his portfolios that he serves on. So, and Commissioner Mojo is actually taking some well-deserved time with family. So we're thankful that she does that, and we encourage everybody to do that when you get a chance. Okay, so item number 2 then will be the request approval of the 25 Township maintenance agreements, and we have Justin with us this morning. Good morning, Justin.
Good morning. Yes, so the first item I have is for the annual township maintenance contract rate. So this is using 2024 actual costs. So they've been calculated, and the contract rate was discussed at highway tracking and then also shared with township officers at the highway department last Thursday. So the new proposed rate from July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026 would be $1,052 per mile. Now this uses a 5-year rolling average based on actual costs. So this is a $12 increase from last year, about 1.1%. When we did share it with the township officers, there really was no concerns that they had noted. We went through just kind of the averages, and one of the big things from 2024 is there was 2,000 less hours of snow removal. So the actual cost from 24 was less than 23, but the number that came off was $58 less, so that therefore that it did go up. And then I did in your packet kind of share an overall summary sheet. And I do want to thank our accountant, Ann. She does a really good job
Right.
with this.
I was going to say that she's, and she was kind of engaged in conversations with some of the township officers too, and I think that was really good. She does a really nice job in that regard. So. All right, and so this is the asking board of approval to set those, then you'll send the contracts out. And that the townships will be discussing that at their annual meetings tonight, right?
That's correct.
All right,
I have one question.
okay, yes.
For that price, I see later on the agenda you're coming back for motor graders. Mm-hmm. Does this price put in replacement of that equipment too?
So we figure actual motor grader costs, which a bunch of different things go into that, both fuel, depreciation. So this will affect next year. But one major thing that happened in 2024 is we lost a transmission and a blade, so also repair costs go into the actual rate. So the actual rate for a motor grader jumped almost $10 an hour.
Okay. And that will be, that's reflective in this price? Okay.
Correct. I can give you the actual motor grader sheet if you want it at a different time.
Yeah.
Is it the amount that goes into the internal service fund that's calculated in as part of the?
I would have to, I don't know that answer off
Remember
the
that
top of
exactly
my
how it
head.
works. It's either a depreciation number or it's the internal service number that's calculated in determining the rate.
Okay.
Yeah, so on 2024 motor grader costs, labor, fringe, outside labor, towing, parts, fuel, insurance, depreciation are all figured in.
Yeah, so the depreciation would be similar to our.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, internal service.
And then the only thing that, as those things go up, I don't know what Ann calculates in terms of a length of time for depreciation, if it's 7 years or,
That's what we have been using, yes.
because this last time now we went out 8 years and it ended up costing us a lot of money.
Yep. Yes, on a few of, like the depreciation on the ones that I'm gonna be asking for replacement later today were quite a bit less than the other ones. Just, I'm assuming because of that, pushing it out an extra year.
Okay. All right, well, so that's, you have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025-2026 Township Maintenance Contract at $1,052 a mile for full-time maintenance.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right, request approval to purchase 3 John Deere motor graders.
Yes, so this one we've been working on for probably a year and a half. This one definitely been a tough one. So I am seeking approval to purchase 3 motor graders from RDO Equipment in Moorhead. So this was discussed at Highway Tracking. I have attached a summary of the pricing, including trades and internal service funds available. One thing that you'll notice is we were $304,000 short on our internal service fund. So in working with Lori and our maintenance staff, we did kind of identify 3 pieces of equipment that are not utilized to their full potential or utilized at all. And that did have quite a bit of internal service funding in them. So Unit 153, which is a little motor grader, Unit 176, which is a little tractor, and Unit 201, which is a roller. The motor grader and the roller have not been used in my time here. So it's something that we're not planning to replace. So I am going to propose using the internal service fund for those items, which would make it, if we did use the internal service fund for those 3 items, we would have an excess of just over $14,000 in internal service. And then one thing to note, I would come back at a later time looking to sell 2 of those pieces of equipment. And then with the intent on whatever we make on those pieces of equipment go into the next round of motor graders. Just because we know we're going to be short, and I think 2027 is the next round.
Okay, so in our highway tracking committee, we talked about, with the internal service fund being short the 304,000, that we would sell those 3 pieces of equipment, right?
Correct. Not at today's motion, but I would come back at a later time looking to sell those.
Okay, so
Just
how,
because I don't,
so if we don't make it as part of today's motion, how are we gonna have enough funds to pay we're gonna be 304,000 short.
so we're utilizing the internal service fund from those 3 items.
I see, so that's just the internal service fund balance.
Correct.
And then you'll come back and wanna sell those, and then you'd put that
Yep, towards
back
the next
into
round of.
I see, okay,
Yep.
okay, I follow you now.
Yeah, so I want to do some research and actually figure out what a
Minimum bid is?
minimum, asking price would be. I don't feel comfortable with that quite yet.
Were those 3 items still having internal service fund deposits made to those?
I don't believe so, but I'd have to double check. Because I know the soil compactor, for example, was purchased in 2009, so I would assume not.
Yeah,
But the balances we see are just the internal service fund.
Just the internal service fund balance. That doesn't include anything that we would make on a purchase.
So the motion would be to purchase those three and then also use the
Internal service fund.
internal service fund on the three that we're trading plus those other three.
Yep.
Okay?
And then one also thing, if you look at the, kind of the spreadsheet that I provided in the packet, on two of the pieces of equipment, CAT was actually slightly cheaper than John Deere. And working with both our road foreman and our maintenance supervisor, we ultimately decided to go with the John Deere, or that's my recommendation. One major thing between a John Deere and a CAT is a John Deere has a steering wheel. A lot of our maintenance staff, especially the guys that have been there for a long time, when you're plowing snow, prefer that steering wheel, especially when you're hitting drifts, because you have something to hold on to. And it's, as a whole, John Deere was cheaper if you look at all three of them combined, but the two were $2,300 and just over $5,000 cheaper for the CAT, but I would propose to go with RDO for all three.
And and we would get a 7-year warranty on all those?
Yep, so we have a 7-year, 8,000-hour warranty on all three.
And how close do we get to that 8,000 mark?
Depends on the
Depends on the
operator, yeah,
Operator and weather?
yep.
Do we get close on average, these ones that we're trading off? Now they went to year 8.
So one of them's at like 8,500 hours, one's just over 7, and one's at just over 6.
So does that depend on their zones that they,
So one thing we've noticed, kind of the more seasoned guys that have been there for a long time tend to put a little bit less hours on it. They're more efficient in their district. Whereas the guys that are newer, obviously they're trying to teach themselves. We're training them as well. The newer employees definitely put more hours on the machines. And then obviously if you get a winter like 2 winters ago, everybody's putting tons of hours on.
and I suppose once you get a driver that has a machine, he doesn't want any other machine but that one.
No,
You don't rotate machines between guys?
no, it's kind of, that'd be a mess, just,
Are they set up for his
Yeah.
side of it? And
just from a cost accounting perspective too, and guys filling out time cards correctly, because they have to
Oh, it's
track
all
every
kind of,
hour.
yeah, okay.
But yeah,
So we did have a few cats that had the joystick or whatever.
currently we have 11 John Deeres and 2 cats.
Okay.
And the guys that have cats like them, and the employees that the current ones are going to, I would feel much more comfortable with a steering wheel. I would say in the next round, we could, if the numbers come in like that, I could definitely see us having another cat or 2.
Okay, so, yeah, so these, so the 3 that we're replacing, are they all John Deere right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're replacing John Deere for John Deere.
All right, let's see, board's wishes.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of 3 motor graders from RDO. $337,696.01 for unit 142, $369,469.01 for unit 147, and $696.01 for unit 149.
I think I actually made a mistake on that last one. So if I look at my spreadsheet, I transposed a number, so it should be 321,969.01.
321,969.01.
Yep,
That's what I show on my.
Yep. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
Oh, it's just on the front page is what you.
Yeah, just in the,
yeah, on the back page, it's right.
yep.
Yep. And that reflected in my motion.
I will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Mr. Chair.
And then, yeah, I just, the motion then should also include transferring the internal service fund on the 3 on the 3 bottom ones to help offset the cost of those.
Yeah, so we're not talking about sale of those items
Nope.
till later. Okay, just transferring the ISF funds from the motor grader, tractor, and compactor as described in the report.
Okay, does that meet with your second?
Yes.
Okay. Do we need to read those numbers for the record?
Or just go?
Just the total amount would be acceptable.
Yeah, so the total internal service fund transfer would be $318,844.50. Would go into offsetting the cost of those 3 John Deeres. All right, so any further discussion on that? And that did come with the Highway Tracking Committee recommendation to move forward. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right. That
Thank you.
concludes your issues. All right. Next, we have a request approval to appoint Brad Eldred to a second 3-year term on the Planning Commission. And we have Matt with us this morning. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. So at the February Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission made a unanimous recommendation to the board to appoint Brad Eldred to a second term, 3-year term. Brad's currently brought a lot of experience, wealth of knowledge to the Planning Commission. He's been a great asset to Clay County, especially with his experience serving on Holly City Council and as vice mayor. So with that, unless there's any questions.
Questions?
No, I just think Brad has done a wonderful job on there. When I was sitting on planning and zoning, I thought he was a great asset on that board. So I have a comment.
And I did check with him, and he's gung-ho about serving again, so.
Serving another 3 years. So with that, I'll make a motion to appoint Brad Eldridge to the second 3-year term for the Clay County Planning Commission.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. All right, Matt, I guess you might as well just stay right there, and we're going to go right in and do your annual update.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, annual update for the Planning and Zoning Department. Just going to start high level here, give you our mission statement. The mission of the Clay County Planning Office is to promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of county citizens through the development, implementation, and administration of appropriate planning, zoning, subdivision regulations which follow the applicable state and federal laws and the Clay County Comprehensive Plan. Bolding that public health, safety, and general welfare of county citizens because that's kind of the lens through which all permitting decisions are made. We also have quite a vision statement. This is from our comprehensive plan, and the vision statement being that Clay County values its existing and rural agricultural character while ensuring a thoughtful, balanced approach to growth and development in the years to come. Clay County is committed to principles of equity, inclusion, and service by providing quality services and facilities for all citizens and future residents. Clay County recognizes the importance of its agricultural and natural resources while looking for new opportunities to support economic vitality. Clay County will promote sound planning principles that foster economic, environmental, and community resiliency to ensure that Clay County thrives into 2045 and beyond. So how do we put that into practice? In our department, the main thing we do is planning. So our comprehensive plan and our development code, just kind of administering those, making sure that those are up to date, implemented, followed, permitting, building permits, land alteration permits in shoreland areas. We also do some administrative permits as well for home occupations and things like that. And then minor subdivisions. We provide the staff for the Board of Adjustment, the Board of Commissioners, and the Planning Commission. Also do investigations and enforcement for any code violations. And then we do floodplain administration and implement the shoreland program as well. So in 2024, I'm going to kind of go through kind of our permitting and looking at permitting in 2024 compared to some of the recent past years. So first one being building permits. We had kind of had coming down from a high of 210 in 2023 and dropped down to 150. So kind of going back to the levels that we maybe saw from like 2015 to 2019. I'd say a lot of those 150, there's probably a quarter that were after the fact permits, so things that have already been built. They may have been built in 2024 or previous years. So pretty big drop there. Slight drop in new housing starts as well. We had a high in 2021 of 43. Now we're down to about 20 this year. And what that looks like in terms of development valuation. So our average structure that was permitted, the average value is about $100,000 this year. And it looks like we did about $15 million worth of new construction in Clay County. So that is also down a bit this year from previous years. Again, 2023 was kind of a high for the past 10 years.
When it comes to building permits, when typically do you see a spike when people come into the office to get those? Is that springtime?
Like during the year?
Yeah, during the year.
Yeah, springtime, I would say. And then there's a little bit of a late summer fall rush too.
Okay.
So depending on how the weather's looking, if we're gonna have a warm, long fall, we might see some spike then. Yep.
I was gonna ask, what does it look like for this year, but with being the 2 winter months done, that's what I was wondering when.
Yeah, we were probably have issued close to 50 building permits already this year. A lot of those, though, the majority of them being after the fact permits. Yep. So they might be better captured in 2024 or 2023.
Yeah.
Yep. In terms of other types of development, subdivisions, so this would be single lot subdivisions, people who are adjusting their boundary, their lot lines, and then plats. This was kind of a high year for us in terms of single lot subdivisions. We did like 66. And then a little different from previous years is we actually did have 3 major plats that you all heard, 2 of them being commercial. And then 1 being a residential subdivision as well. That residential subdivision south of Downer, and I think of the 7 lots, I think they've sold 3 so far. In terms of land use trends, conditional and interim uses up a little bit this year compared to 2023, issuing 15 interim use permits and 8 conditional use permits this year. Still down from 2021, 2022. Those years we did see a lot of, in 2021, 2022, we saw more interim use permits for gravel pits, and then also conditional use permits for community solar gardens in those years as well. And those by far have been kind of, if you look at by type, our industrial use permits are far and away the most that have been issued. In the past 3 years, we've issued 45. Most of those are for gravel pits. In the past 10 years, it's actually the line goes right off the page. It should be 97. And then essential services is another big one, and that would be our community solar gardens mainly. And then commercial, a lot more commercial storage has been happening as well. And we can get even more into the weeds here too. So you can see gravel mines, new and expansion, past 3 years, we've permitted 26, 59 in the past 10. Asphalt batch plants, community solar gardens, we're starting to see a lot more of those come online. And then storage is another, let me see here. Yeah, warehousing and storage buildings is kind of another trend that pops up as the type of new development or increased development that we're seeing in Clay County. In terms of variances, and variances would be those requests to vary from the Clay County Development Code. Up a little bit this year, 17 were approved, 18 total were heard, one was withdrawn actually, and not denied. So that's up just a little bit this year.
Matt, when we're looking at the development code and the, when we're reviewing those things, we take into consideration when there's a high frequency of variances too, and then we, if we can, we try to adjust those codes to, or the, what's the other one? Development code or the comprehensive plan. Don't we
Yeah.
try to modify those to maybe adjust that to, I think I remember, and maybe Commissioner Bear can address it, but it seems to me that there would be variances that would be going to the planning commission, and more of them would be accepted than denied, and it would, sometimes they're all the same reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so do we see the, maybe those variance requests might drop based on changes that we make?
Yes, it's very possible. So I'll give you an example. One example that we see a lot of variance requests for is for mining operations to occur within a 100-foot setback of a property line. And those are almost always granted. One of the requirements of that specific variance is that you have a written agreement with the adjoining landowner that they're okay with that encroachment. And so the proposal in the development code update, the proposal is to drop the variance request and just require that written agreement. So we should see a lot of drops there. Also, for interim use permits, an interim use permit that we see quite a bit is for a second dwelling on a parcel. And our standards now are probably a little bit dated in terms of the requirements for that. And so the proposal in the new development code is to allow for an accessory dwelling unit that's just permitted by right. So we should see we should see fewer of those types of requests as well.
I think that's good. I sometimes if they're just things that are reoccurring that are always approved, then I think there's probably a lot of time being wasted that
Yep.
is another thing. So it's,
Yep.
I think it's an efficiency that I think is good.
Yeah, I think that's a good indicator of if you see a lot of variances and they're always approved, that it's time to update that part of your code, so. In terms of zoning violations, those have continued to increase. We have a number of, we're kind of above, I'd say we've probably got close to 100 active violations, but we've also made some progress on resolving violations as well. We've had a lot more violations being referred to our county attorney's office, and they've done a fantastic job in picking up the ball and continuing to carry those towards a resolution. We go through the civil process for those types of violations, which can take some time in some cases. But we have been seeing some progress on some of those right now that have been in court. So,
Matt, when it comes to those types of things like the violations, do we ever compare that with like a similar sized county? Or do we see, are we much better or are we average with other counties our size, or don't we ever look at that?
we certainly could do that. I'd be happy to reach out to other counties that are in our McPisa district and see, but I just know that anecdotally from going to conferences and things like that, that violations have increased in the past 5 years. There's been more of them. There's less of a maybe willingness to address them sometimes, and they're just becoming more difficult to deal with.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I think just a reminder too is several years ago, one of the areas that they asked Matt this board asked Matt to focus on was the violations. Right. And so I think that you allowed an additional staff member to be hired, and I think subsequently you can see the work's being done in that fashion. And so, and again, I would just echo the collaboration that we've had as far as the violations. There's been several of the areas where quite eyesores or blights for neighbors for the county, and so I appreciate the efforts of that committee.
Yeah, and I agree with that. The reason why I asked the question is sometimes if you can, I mean, we do comparatives with other counties on a lot of the other things we do, and if you can, if maybe in our 2024 chart, the numbers we have there are, are they way high, are they way low, or can we pat ourselves on the back, or does it tell us we have more work to do maybe in catching things up front?
Yeah,
I don't know.
absolutely.
It's a way to help gauge.
That's something we can certainly do, and I can follow up with the board on that as well.
Okay.
I just want to mention that working with the county attorney's office, also work with the county sheriff's department and environmental health as well, especially on the nuisance type violations, because those kind of fall within the environmental health realm. And I think we've done a very good job of working more collaboratively to address some of those. All right. Gravel tax. So this year, seeing a little bit of a dip in the gravel tax, as well as revenue and then material reported. So 2023, we collected about $418,500. This year, we're down to $346,000. You can see a little bit of a dip there. And so again, this is a tax that is collected when a material leaves a pit and hits a public road, essentially. And so we have 42.5% going to the county, 42.5% going to the township of origin, and then 15% is into a reserve fund for reclamation. And so that, we've looked at this a little bit closer, Justin and Erica and I, and looking at in the auditor's office and figuring out kind of what might be the accounting for the decrease. And it just looks like a lot of some of our larger companies in Clay County that are operating in Clay County, their reporting is not what it was last year. Actually, some of our smaller companies have seen increases in their reporting. But it's a lot more of our larger companies that have seen less. Maybe it mirrors some of the development slowdown that's been occurring. I mean, if you look at like our building permits, for an example, as a comparative point being down, there could be some difference there. And then also just trends with some of the larger infrastructure projects like the diversion and things like that. We may have seen some spikes in previous years with that as well. So
I don't think it was too long ago, there was an awful lot of trucks that were going to build the Amazon facility.
that as well. Yep.
That was a major,
Is that 2018?
That would have been 2021, I think, or 2020,
During COVID?
or 28. Yeah, it might have been
COVID
2018.
years?
There was also a big, like, I think in 2020 was the
I'm guessing,
the
looking at the numbers.
Yeah,
Castleton
ethanol plant.
ethanol plant too. Yep. We had a lot of gravel that was shipped there as well.
So one question for that on the gravel tax. Does this board set the gravel tax, or is that a state issue on
It's a state.
state sets?
Yep.
There's a maximum and minimum that you can collect?
Yep.
Do you know what that
It's
is?
based on, I think it's 15 cents a ton and 21.5 cents for a cubic yard.
Oh, so you can bill it cubic yards or a ton?
Yep. However it's reported.
And And the state also dictates the formula for distribution.
Yep. Actually, Clay County was the first county to have a gravel tax.
Oh.
Yeah,
And now it's in state legislature.
yep, yep. All right. So 2025, we're coming up on the year 2 of our land development and subdivision ordinance update. We're hoping we're getting to the finish line here. The goal to be to adopt in April or May of this year. The Planning Commission's going to have their hearing on it at their March 18th meeting. We've submitted the shoreland and floodplain sections to the DNR. The DNR does need to basically review and approve them to make sure that they're in alignment with our state shoreline and state floodplain rules. Also did have a attorney review our administration and procedures chapter as well as our subdivision chapter, because those can be some of the more complicated chapters. And so I did get the administration and procedures chapter back with some good feedback, and still waiting on that subdivision one. Hopefully get that this week here. One thing that we want to do as well is move our permitting application process online, and that's just taken a lot of coordination with other departments, specifically GIS and communications, the auditor's office and the recorder's office, and trying to get that those applications online. Still offering that paper application for those who'd want to do that, but moving that online just to make it easier for folks and more convenient. And then also, once our development ordinance would be updated, maybe looking at a fee schedule update for our permitting fees, looking at keeping our base fees the same, but maybe modifying our fees and penalties for any permit use violations after the fact requests, things like that. I think we have fairly low permitting fees. A lot of that just is because we don't enforce the state building code. Once you get into doing that, your fees can jump quite a bit just to pay for all the inspections.
When you say that the state building code is still required,
It's still required, yes, absolutely. Yep. So,
and so any licensed contractor knows.
yes. Yep. And one thing we've done, and I think that Erica in our office has been really good about, is just making sure that developers are aware of different aspects of the state building code that they should really be aware of in terms of what their development with regards to fire, if they need sprinklers for whatever their type of use might be, and things like that. And also we do, if folks have questions, we've developed a pretty good relationship with the Department of Labor and Industry, and so we're able to connect developers with specific contacts in the Department of Labor and Industry so they can get the information that they need. With that, I just want to thank you all for your support of our department, and I want to thank Erica and Rita and all the departments that we work with on a regular basis. Really appreciate everything, and I appreciate all of your support. Any questions for me at all?
I just have a comment.
Okay.
So I came through the planning and zoning department through my way to here, and I just want to say thank you so much. You helped me along the way. When I was chairman of planning and zoning, you always came up with the most information and made our jobs in planning and zoning very simple. So thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Yeah, I know it's a challenging but exciting kind of role to serve on a planning commission or a board of adjustment. You sometimes have to make tough decisions, and I just view my job as providing you all the best, most accurate and comprehensive information possible to help you make your decisions. So,
I want to echo Commissioner Bear with your work and that of yourself and your staff. It's your team. I refer to them as do an excellent job. And I don't get to a lot of planning commission meetings, but when I am there, you're well prepared. And that's a, that's a credit to your department. And that makes everybody else's jobs a lot easier. And I think when the citizens come before you, years ago, I would hear complaints about planning and zoning department. I haven't had one in a long time. And that, I think that says a lot. So congratulations to you and your staff. And again, a very well done update. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Abrier.
Just one thing, the issues we're dealing with on the planning for the marijuana ordinances, your preparation on that's been great. You and Steve presented to AMC, and we had so much feedback from other counties about how lucky we were to have the ability to be prepared, and one of the first counties in the state to really come up with a comprehensive plan before the state did. So we're grateful for that too. And we've got a little more work to do once we get in the retail end of it, but you've always given us the information we need, and both of you are always on the forefront of what other counties do. They're looking to us for leadership, so you and your team are responsible for a lot of that, and we're grateful.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. And just to piggyback off that, also, we're starting to see resolutions now come in from townships delegating their retail authority to the county. So starting to see more of those, and I'll be sure to bring that up again at our spring meeting here with Cato, and also provide any other information, as well as like a template resolution that they can take with them as well. So
Appreciate that.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt.
thank you.
Next, we have our annual update on the West Central Regional Juvenile Center.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Morning, James.
All right, I'm here today to present my annual update. First, start out with the mission statement. The West Central Regional Juvenile Center is a learning environment where the values of each individual are recognized, developed, and matured for the betterment of our community. The youth at the West Central Regional Juvenile Center, it's a question that I get asked quite a bit. What are the youth like? The youth they're hard to categorize. They come from all different walks of life, all different backgrounds. It's really, it's a mixed bag, but they are our youth. It's a small percentage of our population. They're at a crossroads in their life, very dangerous crossroads at times, and they're making critical decisions that need to lead them down a good path or a bad path. And I could talk for days and days on this, but just kind of leave it at, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So kind of moving along. Two major programs at the West Central Regional Juvenile Center. There's a secure program and there's non-secure programs. I'll talk about the secure programs in a little bit more depth in the next slide or two. But the non-secure programs, that's a Clay County specific program. We will take non-Clay County youth on a per diem type of thing. But the non-secure program, it was originally developed for short-term emergency placements for social services or law enforcement. So the types of law enforcement holds for the non-secure would be usually either they got arrested or detained for like a lower level offense, but they can't find the parents to release them to. So they will leave them with us until a parent can come get them. Social services, that would be child protection types of holds, different types of issues, just kind of a catch-all for the county and different places. That's a safe, secure place for people to stay and get whatever services they need. Currently, the adaptation in our non-secure program, we've been having a lot of changes recently, and it's basically due to lack of state resources, lots of issues going on in the state. There's very few programs in Minnesota. Example for Minnesota ranks 50th out of 50 states for PRTFs and availability for psychiatric services like that. I'll talk about that a little bit moving on, but our current non-secure has developed for Clay County youth that need those types of services, but there aren't any. We've been morphing our services to try to provide the best services we can for those youth. So we've been changing and doing whatever social services needs us to do, and the county, et cetera. And then I forgot, the other part of the non-secure program is our transition programs. So basically, looking at the juvenile center, you have secure and non-secure programs. The secure program has two different kind of program components in it: secure detention and secure residential. And then the non-secure has our non-secure programs and our transition programs. To kind of moving into the secure programs a little bit, the secure programs operate under a cooperative service agreement with the ultimate authority with this board. But if you see there along the right column there is the 10 other member counties, and it's part of a cooperative service agreement through 2038. So we got quite a while to go with that. Within the two programs, the secure detention program, average right around 20 youth a day in that program. Those are the pre-adjudicated youth. So those are be law enforcement pickups, or they're waiting for their court case to work its way through, and a judge has deemed them not able to be sent home while that court proceedings are going on. And then our secure residential program, that's a pretty popular program. It's very successful. We average about 20 youth in that program. Those are the court-ordered youth. Programming length can vary depending on the case. Pretty intense programming. It's all individual based on what they need. And it's pretty popular and unique. That's where a lot of our non-member revenues come from, is they're coming for our secure residential program.
Yes, yes.
Going back to that, so average 20, how many can we house?
So the license is combined for our secure. So we have availability for license for 55 youth right now. And we have the ability physical space for 65, but we only licensed 55 of those beds. And that goes back to the expansion that happened. And that was with the member counties, they wanted it to last for 20 years, because right before 2018, we were starting to turn down our members. And that causes huge problems when there isn't a place to place a youth that needs secure placement. So part of it was, we're going to expand, but we're going to build it for 20 years, and this should provide a space for 20 years. And in the meantime, we'll be able to collect some non-member revenues with the extra space.
So on average, 40 beds are filled out of 55?
Yep. Yep, and the kind of the reason for that is, I mean, we could take more, because we do have a waiting list for our non-members, but our program won't be that effective, and then our staffing level can't affect that. Our main thing is taking care of our membership and providing solid programming and not just warehousing youth.
Yeah, so when a member needs a bed, we can get
Members automatically always have a bed.
If I can follow up on Commissioner Bear's question. So on the secure residential, when we say we average 20, what is the kind of ceiling that you have that your staff is able to provide those services for? Is it 25? Is it 30?
I would say about 25 for our residential, because we can share services. It's kind of unique over there between our secure residential and our secure detention. So we can,
But there's more intense programming in this in the secure residential, right?
most definitely.
And that's what I'm referring to is that, that treatment option that's there. That's also got to be pretty staff heavy to do, or
Most definitely.
professionals that come in.
Yep.
And you know, to what level, when you say we're licensed to 55, could we potentially have 35 in secure residential, or would we have trouble with the level of service to provide?
I believe we would start to have trouble with the level and quality of services.
That's kind of, yeah, so, yeah. But I do agree that secure residential, and the program that we have available there, that really, you really took control of that and really promoted that.
Yeah,
That, you know, I think, you know, when we start looking at, James, the annual budget that goes through with that, and we start seeing, you know, $1 million revenues over expenditures, it's that program that's doing it. Even though it's intense and it's costly, it still brings in that non-member revenue. And that's helpful to all member counties.
yes, very helpful to the member counties and the other states that pay decent per diem to place it. Dustin Berg runs that program, and he does an amazing job. He's got great staff, and it's a blessing. So we're thankful for that. Kind of moving on, different partners that we have. We have Moore Area Public Schools is our biggest partner, and what's unique about that is all youth that come into the juvenile center, they're actually going to school at a Moorhead Public School, so it falls underneath Moorhead Public Schools. However, the community of Moorhead isn't paying for that. They're able to capture the funds from where that youth came from. So if the youth came from Alexandria, they're collecting it from Alexandria. Even our North Dakota youth, they're collecting it from North Dakota youth. So if it's come from West Fargo School District, well, that West Fargo School District's paying for that youth. They're able to track and get on all IEPs, which is individual education plans, which is different federal and state mandates. They're excellent at that. Those are very comprehensive and unique and time-consuming, but they're able to track with all of them. The other one, our next kind of a partner would be Lutheran Social Services, and they actually provide us with our different therapists. Stephanie Frosley has been with us for a long time, and she does an excellent job promoting and advocating for our youth. And that's where a lot of our trauma therapy comes from, and the EMDR and the specialized individual types of uniqueness of therapy services they can provide. Lakeland Mental Health is another huge partner. They've been with us for over 20 years. They provide us with a slew of services. Mainly, they do our 30-day evaluation in our non-scare unit. They are very good to us, and they're very fair. They provide us with great services. Solutions is a relatively newer partner with us. They picked up our chemical dependency portion of our program. A couple years ago, we struggled finding licensed LADCs, which alcohol and drug counselors, but Solutions stepped in and filled that gap for us, and that's been pretty nice for us. Psychologics would be Dr. Keeland. She does our sex offender programming. She oversees that. Oasis would be Dr. Lovala and also now Dr. Ackers. They come in. That's huge. They do our med management and adolescent psychiatric services, and that's very unique. And it's really a blessing that Dr. Lovala comes in and does it. She'll come into the facility, and that's kind of unheard of a lot of places. And she'll come in after hours, whatever it is, and she's very responsive, because these types of services are months out. So like if I wanted to get my child in to see an adolescent psychiatrist, I'd be on a 4-month waiting list. But at the juvenile center, we can get them seen within a week or two. So it's pretty very nice service. Other things, significant volunteers, we do accept volunteers, but we want consistency, and we want, there are certain things they have to do, but Concordia has been a great volunteer base for us. They do our mindfulness groups. They're willing to go through the backgrounds, and they're willing to show up weekly, consistently, not give up on it. Same with the Youth for Christ has been a significant partner for us for many years. Staffing, it's kind of, in our secure program, we have 26 full-time staff and right around 50 variable hour staff, which would be like part-time staff. Non-secure, we have 15 full-time staff and right around 20 variable hour staff. Our variable hour staff fluctuates, goes up and down. And then 4 admin personnel, which would be like myself, Josh, and Danelle and Ryan. And then we have 3 pending openings for our female clips program that we've done the interviews on. We just haven't pulled the trigger on the actual new hire with benefits yet until that program is going to open, which should be open at the end of the month and next month. So we'll be able to fill those in relatively easily because they're already ready to go. Talking about staff turnover, again, another decent year last year. Our numbers continue to go down. If you look at 2021, we had 25 turnover of full-time staff, 2022, 15, 23, 10, and now we're down to 9. I wrote a little comment in there that 2 of those 9 actually came back and are working with us full-time right now, and another 2 switched to variable hour. So we're excited to see that our staff we're retaining our staff a little bit more. But also, you know, if you do look at it at a different token, although it's going down, we got 9 out of our, basically, you know, a little over 40 full-time staff. It's about a 20% turnover within a year, and that's still very significant. So we continue to try to do what we can to do that, to retain quality staff, and we're working toward that. Sometimes overtime is necessary. My overtime budget, it's always hard to pin. It really depends on what kind of youth we have and the needs of the youth at the time. There's a lot of times that the youth will need one-on-one care. And these are primarily, we're getting a lot of youth due to lack of placement options in the state, that they're highly suicidal. There's lots of issues going on, and they should be in a hospital, but there's no hospital will take them, and we're doing what we can do with them to keep them safe. So kind of counties using our secure program in 2024. There we have our 11 member counties. In this one, just kind of dip down. I'll show you a graph in a little bit here. But our member counties actually made up about 45% of our total population in 2024, and our non-members made up almost 55%. You'll see that in a graph coming up here. Total counties using us between Minnesota and North Dakota. I believe 36 of those were Minnesota counties that used us, and then another 6 North Dakota counties used our secure detention services in 2024. I'll just jump ahead to that graph real quick. So since we're talking that population, I'll skip it going back. As you can see, it dips between our member and our non-member. So when we start talking about that average of 40 that we're effective at, that's what we balance it off. We go on what our members' needs are, and when our members' needs drop, then we'll start taking non-members. And you can see that a good thing is our members' needs actually dropped a little bit in 2024. And as you can see, as a result, then we started taking more non-member youth. So that's what that kind of 2-year look back looks like. Oh. All right, so the types of services we offer, and this is in both secure and non-secure. There's a lot of services. There's a lot of things going on over there. The biggest one's the K through 12 education, more public schools does. We also can do GED programming, which is very popular. A lot of our youth just have too few credits or so credit deficient that, they're 17, 18 years old and have 3 or 4 credits. And if they come to our secure residential program, we got a pretty good shot at getting them through the GED program and getting them a GED. And that happens very, very often. Most of our program is based on a cognitive behavioral approach, and we have different programs that we follow fidelity in the different units. So like our decision points there, we do that in our secure detention, which is our short term, but then we use thinking for a change in our residential unit. And we'll also use some aggression replacement stuff in there too. And now we got our training for our Girls Moving On program is what it's called. It's cognitive behavioral based, but it's relational based, and that's gender specific programming, and that's going to be really going into our female transition unit right now and dipping into some of our secure residential youth for our females. We have individual and group counseling, religious services, any and all denominations, chemical dependency, trauma therapy, and the trauma therapy, if that's the cognitive behavioral trauma therapy, TFCBT, if that's not working, our therapist can do EMDR, and that's just kind of just different types of things that they're able to flex when something isn't working. Evaluation services, sex offender programming, medication management, transitional services, mindfulness. There's kind of a lot going on. Bouncing back into our non-secure, traditionally about 50% of our youth in our non-secure unit are non-Clay County youth, but in 2024, only about 33% of them are, and that was Clay County's youth needs in our non-secure unit grew, and that's not because there's more going on in Clay County. It's just that there's no services in the state of Minnesota, and since the Clay County program, we're programming Clay County youth when the need is there. We got it was designed for a certain purpose again, and we've been adapting the last 3 years. Hopefully it's just temporary. Hopefully they can get some stuff rolling in the state. But that continues to be a work in progress. And then our CLIPS program has been very successful, and we're starting our female one. Our CLIPS male program started right around, it was part of the vision for the expansion, and it's always basically been full. We average between 7 and 8 youth. Our female program will be starting pretty soon there. We got some grant funding when that kicked off too, so we've been able to capture right around $750,000 through 2025. So we'll see if that grant renews or not, and it may or may not. It's a JAG grant, so if it does go for renewal, I think we got a pretty decent shot at it. I have a good feeling about that. Next, some secure data. Again, data's data. Statistics can be very manipulated, but you look at about 40% of our youth are out when they see a judge the next day usually. Say it within 48 hours. It's a 36-hour thing, but sometimes weekends and stuff kicking in there, and that's just the way the Excel thing kind of works it out for me, but that's kind of that. 2-year look back, we looked at that. Some more data. I have a hard time kind of categorizing stuff and the way you want to categorize it, but I just kind of want to highlight some things that's different with our secure data and why youth are insecure is usually there's a violent or aggressive type of an offense. I broke it down kind of weirdly here, but if you look, about 2/3 of our youth are placed with us specifically for harming another person. And that's kind of why I like to highlight that. And it's not so much drugs and stuff because there are other programs out there that are more appropriate for youth. But when violence starts getting used, that's when our program becomes utilized more. Again, age, license all the way down to 10. Again, that's very, very rare. It should never happen, but unfortunately, there are issues that do arise. Again, when they're that young, all of them have gone through the courts and stuff like that. There's just no other placement for them to go. But if you look, it is a very tiny percent of our population is under 12. Starting in August of 2026, Minnesota we won't be able to house youth in our secure under 13 anymore. And that when you really break that down, it's technically closer to about 5% of our youth that we currently house that we will not be able to house anymore. And we're starting to make our adjustments with our facility that we can respond to that. There's nobody's making any moves in other facilities or in the state. So that's going to be an issue come August of 2026 if the state doesn't do something about that, provide some funding some way or another due to the law they passed. But we'll see what happens there. But if you look at it, the majority of our youth are between 15 and 17 years old, big lion's share of them. Our female population kind of is still high from a historical standpoint, double from a historical standpoint, but last year we were about 35% female, and now we're in 2024 we're about 30. So the population is remaining high for our females, and I don't see that changing. And that's why our female transition program is going to be heavily utilized. So that's kind of that. And I'd be remiss if I didn't always talk about out-of-home placement. And because out-of-home placement got a bad rap. Maybe it was overutilized at one point in time, and then it became very underutilized, and there's huge issues going back and forth. But there's a whole slew of reasons. Some are good or some are bad, but at the grand scheme of things, sometimes youth need to be placed out of home for their benefit, their safety benefit. It's just, there's a reason places exist, and when they go to one extreme to the other extreme, the only one that's really getting hurt is the kids in the community. Kind of current and future outlook, current issues and mental health placements, only accept non-aggressive youth, so that can be troublesome. So, you have your programs that have all your doctors and stuff like that are on staff. They're just not accepting aggressive youth. So that leaves youth to end up in corrections that could be served somewhere else. There's the stigma that's always going to be there with juvenile detention, misunderstanding. And I think one of the biggest issues that we've had in the past, in the recent past, has been experts. They call themselves juvenile justice experts, and they got the ears of people. And I think that's what really pushed Minnesota to become like 50th out of 50 in being able to provide quality services for youth, basically because they shut down a lot of programs. A lot of things closed. And that really, in Minnesota, that started way back in 2016. You look at what happened in Wasabi when all those accusations came out and none of them flushed out to actually being relevant. But at that point in time, Wasabi had a youth that engaged in Minnesota State High School League sports. They had a very nice program there in the Iron Range, and that got shut down. Issues that continue. MA is not available for facilities labeled as correctional institutions, so that puts all the cost right on the county. and 4E in Minnesota anyways, changed their definitions and stuff. So any facility that's got a detention certification can't recoup 4E funds. And we're working on that with our female transition program. That's gonna be at a different address, so we'll be able to get that license not as a detention certification. So that one, we will be able to be QRTP certified, and social services will be able to recoup some 4E funds once we get all that certification done. So
And if the new non-secure building is done, the same would apply to everything.
yes, sir. That is correct. The good news, the sentiment toward placements is becoming more rational. So that's good. And, you know, people, at least in Minnesota now, realize that they need placements and they're in favor of it, but there's no money for that. So that's where we're at with that. Other than that, female transition program, we're hopefully shooting for an April 1st. Our tile people are in there right now, and we're getting the beds and stuff set up. But if you ever have some time, swing over and look at it. We remodeled it. It's looking pretty nice, and we're very excited about it.
That's in the Family Service Center, correct?
Yep. Yep, it's on the second floor. It's an old detox space. So if you ever went through there when old detox spaces in there, it's night and day now. It's
Yeah,
very nice.
Give us a little update that looks a little different.
Yeah. So we're excited about that, and we're very happy, and we're on budget with it. So.
All right.
Any questions?
I have one question. Going to the CLIPS program, is that just for Clay County youth?
It's for all youth, but Clay County youth have the preference. So we heavily screen, so we turn down a lot, but Clay County, if social services or the courts really probation, something really need this to happen, we'll make it happen for Clay County.
So that's how you put youth into that program, you heavily screen for them and make sure they can go on to a program like that?
Yes, correct.
And I think that also has a judicial review, right?
Most definitely, yep. Every single youth in our program is there under a court order.
Okay, in the CLIPS program?
Yep,
Even though that's considered part of the non-secure.
Okay.
Eclipse is, so. So that is, technically speaking, everything in non-secure is just Clay County.
Yeah.
But if, as James mentioned in his report, or in his update, if he has the availability, we can bring in, his youth from other counties. So that's at his discretion, yes. Yes, Commissioner Ebinger.
I just want to do a embarrass shames a little bit here. We've been up to the Capitol talking this, trying to generate funds for the female program that we're about to start. I'm the alternate on this, but I've learned so much about what this county does for kids. I didn't realize that all the years I worked as police chief, how effective a juvenile system we had. It's kind of a well-kept secret, except among the correctional people and the people in the state. And you've built yourself a great reputation for having a top-notch facility. And what we do here in Clay County is an example. Hopefully we can get it continue and move forward with getting psychological treatment for kids here through affiliation with our juvenile facility. But I can't say enough about how impressive it is. And when we go, again, to AMC meetings, and we have the Public Safety Committee discussions, your facility invariably comes up. You've done a great job on this. I think people in the state see it. I hope we can take that reputation and get more services for kids in here and give this county an opportunity to be the example on getting psychiatric treatment, long-term facilities for our kids, which we have in some categories, none. We have to go out of state for them. But as an old spent most of my adult life in Arkansas, and the pitch they've got when they talk about what services are available for youth, they say Arkansas has more than Minnesota. And that always kind of hurts my feelings, but it's true. And I think Clay County's setting a tone and giving an example on what can be done. And I see nothing but us moving forward under your leadership, and you've done a good job, James.
Thank you.
This happens to be one of my portfolios that I've had for a long time, and I think back when I first started, Barry was the administrative director of that department. Then it was Mr. Larson here who was, and no offense, Steve, but James has taken it to another level. And, you know, I think that's what we look forward to in all of our departments when we have new directors going in. It's nothing against the previous director, it's that we always look for that. And you've done that, and as Commissioner Ebinger said, you know, I talked to him about Mark Sloan when Mark was here, about how statewide we get these feedbacks on people, and almost every one of our directors, we hear that about in all of our different departments, and you're no exception. We hear about it a lot, and I especially hear about it from our 11-member counties, who are very thankful for what goes on here, and we do, I think we do set the bar for the entire state in what we do with our youth here in Clay County. And credit goes to you and Josh and all of your staff or team.
We did kind of luck out with, the expansion stuff happened before I got here, and I kind of stepped.
Well,
into it.
yeah, but
The road was already laid.
right. So, you know, and just going back here, just for these board members, you know, and this even goes back to when Steve was director, there were times when we were wondering how we were going to be able to keep the facility open. There were so many things going on, and we did not have the programming abilities. There was times when we'd have a total of, 10, 12 kids, and that's not a bad thing. I certainly want to say that the most successful program we could have would be an empty building.
That's correct.
Right? But that just doesn't happen. And so the more we've been able to, you know, when you think, boy, you're going to add on all these programming, you right away you think, okay, here goes the cost skyrocketing. But what we have to understand is the revenues that follow it, and the investment that others are also willing to make to provide those services. We've been able to hold steady on our daily bed prices for our member counties for 4 years in a row now, I think?
Yeah, easily. Yep.
It's been steady with, you know, so it's significant, and it's really good. And, you know, and this idea of moving, you know, hopefully we can be successful in non-secure, and I think that'll just take things to another level yet. And I do want to put a shout out to Moorhead Public Schools, because they are a major partner in dealing with our youth in those facilities. And they do it without hesitation, and they're glad to be there to help. So another example of how we partner as a county. And so thank you, and make sure you let everybody know over there that we appreciate all the work that's going on.
Will do, and thank you guys for your support. Thank you for everything.
All right, thank you. We were scheduled for a break at 9:40. Should we just take a quick one and then, okay. Are you okay with that, Corey? All right, we'll take a 5-minute break. All right, we are back in session here. Our next item is a request to approve purchase of a QED GEM 5000 gas monitor at the landfill. Good morning, Corey.
Thank you for having me. Our QED gas monitor at landfill is approximately 15 years old. It's the second one we've owned in 30 years, and we tried to get one more year out of it, and when we tried to send it back for calibration and upgrading, the company told us that it was no longer possible. So we had to push up the timeline a little bit. We did get 2 bids, one from Elkins and one from QED. The bids were about $1,500 different. The Elkins came in a little cheaper. However, the QED model is the one that Stantec uses, who is our consultant, and it's the kind we've had, so the data will transfer over a little bit better. The other issue with the Elkins model is it runs off an iPad, so when we're out there in 20 below weather testing wells, the iPad will freeze up. So it would, instead of taking half a day out there, it would take 2 days to do it, because you'd have to keep jumping in and out of the vehicles. So my recommendation would be to go with the QED model at a cost of $19,345. And I took this to SWAC last week and got their approval as well. So with that, I'll yield for questions.
Mr. Abinger.
Yep, this sounds like foregone conclusion. SWAC said that it was a good decision, so I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a QED GEM 5000 gas monitor for solid waste in the amount of $19,345.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
One question.
Yes.
The Elkins uses an iPad. What does the other one use?
It's actually right in the machine itself. It's a self-contained machine, and then we take it to a laptop after the fact and plug it in inside. So all the data is stored internally. We take it to a laptop, and then we transfer it to a laptop.
All right.
And coincidentally, the laptop we have to use for the old model has to have old software on it as well. It has to have Windows 10. So we're running a special laptop just to keep that going at this point. So
And we won't have to replace that laptop with this new unit.
IT man back
Yeah, I was going to say,
nodding.
the IT man is giving a
Time to
thumbs
upgrade a
up.
15-year-old computer?
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right, Corey, we're going to go into your solid waste update.
thank you. The Solid Waste Department had a very productive year at both locations this year. In 2024, the Household Hazardous Waste Department processed 99,314 pounds, or 49.7 tons of material, and we served 1,745 households. The department was able to distribute 2,656 pounds of usable product out of that hazardous waste to 393 individuals. And that does not include the large volume of reuse items that go through our facility daily. Anything we can reuse doesn't go in the landfill, doesn't cost us to be disposed of, so. At the RRC, we saw an average of 46 private customers per day. This totals approximately 12,450 customers over the course of the year, which compares to 23 with an average of 50 customers per day. What we're seeing is people are bringing all their stuff in one trip rather than coming and say, oh, I could have brought that, I'll be back next week. So it's a one-stop shop at this point. We continue to staff the RRC according to the trends we see on the usage and are always looking to ways to organize our drop-off area to ensure safety and as well as efficiency. We will be looking this spring at reorganizing the dumpsters and the reuse area so we can keep the people that are using the reuse area out of our way when we're dumping dumpsters and that kind of stuff. The recycling at the RRC continues to be a growing area for the department. At the RRC and the landfill in 2024, we recycled 995 Freon appliances, 859 non-Freon appliances, 70 mattresses, and we only started that program in July, 3,516 tires, 356 rims, and 182 tons of metal. We also recycled 73.44 tons of electronics and fluorescent bulbs and 1,195 pounds of batteries and cell phones. Our trucking is going very well. We currently have 5 full-time staff that are CDL licensed, and our newer operator will be licensed this spring. These drivers can haul either leachate or solid waste, as well as one variable hour driver who can haul either. This ensures that we're not storing any trash any longer than is necessary, and we're reducing the likelihood of fires, as well as keeping our leachate levels in compliance with the MPCA. The trucking department and our shortage to Perham has been a topic of discussion since I was named director. I am proud to say that the issue has been resolved, and we are now running a plus or minus value very close to zero. I believe last week we were actually 200 tons over what they'd asked for. In the last year, we have delivered every load that they have requested and a couple extras as the need arose. At the landfill, we compacted 47,801.64 tons of material. This is broken down by 35,410.63 tons of municipal solid waste, 1,565.11 tons of mixed demo, 7,768.9 tons of fines and bypass, 2,830.47 tons of ash, and 226.53 tons of sawdust. We also separate out 638.5 yards of demo material, which is currently being hauled to the demo landfill. On a side note, we did swap 6,000 tons of fines with Perham, so that keeps our volumes and stuff in check there. I would like to thank the board for the approving of the purchase of our new compactor in 2024. The new machine was delivered in September and could not have been come at a better time. Our old machine needed several $1,000s for repair and maintenance, which would not be fiscally responsible based on the age of the machine. The new compactor has a 7-year lifespan with the option to rebuild 2 times, potentially giving us 21 years of use. I hope this is the last compactor I have to buy.
Me too.
We have continued to utilize some of the programs the board has approved. Some of these are as follows. Leachate delivery to Pelican Rapids. We delivered 1,549,800 gallons in 2024, which has yielded the county a savings of $32,545.80. We have renewed our contract with Pelican for the 2nd year, as the program has been beneficial to both parties. We continue to deliver some of our leachate to Fargo as well. This allows us to haul larger volumes daily without overwhelming the treatment system and gives us options if issues arise at either location. In total, last year, we hauled 1,732,500 gallons, or 275 loads. Becker County load sharing has continued to be a good benefit for both counties involved. We met with Becker County in July and discussed a couple issues that had come up. We were quickly able to work through these matters with the help of Becker County staff, as well as Commissioner Campbell and Administrator Larson, ensuring the program remains in place and benefits both entities. At the end of 2024, we had hauled 95 loads for Becker County, and they have hauled 100 in return. We try to keep these numbers as balanced as possible to ensure they're fair for everybody.
Corey, I want to stop you. Again, that's partnership cooperation. And it's something that our directors do well. And I can't say that enough. And this is another perfect example of that. There was a, frustration amongst Corey and amongst Becker County on how things were being done. Sat them down together. We didn't work it out. They worked it out. And now it's working great for both counties. So I just wanted to point that out.
On-site freon removal started late last year and has continued to be a positive impact on our budget. We no longer need to have these items hauled away to be processed, and this allows us to retain the reimbursement from the scrap metal it creates. We have 2 staff on site that can remove the freon, making the units recyclable. We are also in the process of certifying our new landfill operator. This will give us 3 people qualified to remove the freon and will limit the number of units we are storing. The freon is given to a local company in return for empty tanks, which reduces the cost of disposal. We have also been able to help the city of Moorhead remove 7 dumpster loads of freon appliances collected during cleanup last year. The program has created $34,825 positive swing to the solid waste budget. This number does not include the reimbursement from the metal we recycle. With this program working so well, the department will be looking into insulating as well as heating the garage on the west side of the RRC building. This will allow us to remove freon year-round and eliminate the storage of these appliances all winter. The estimated cost to accomplish this would be $25,000 and will appear on a future budget item. The department has seen some turnover in staff in 2024. We lost our landfill manager, our recycling and education coordinator, as well as one of our heavy equipment operators. Losing 3 of our most senior staff did create some struggles, as well as some very sleepless nights for myself. With the support of the board, we were able to look at each of these positions as they opened and reevaluate what was needed. I am pleased to say that after reorganization, the department was able to replace the 3 staff that left with 4 new qualified employees with a very minimal effect on the budget. This reorganization eliminated the landfill manager, and created a landfill technician position, as well as an office clerk. By doing this, we now have a landfill tech that can fill in at every position at the landfill as well as the RRC, a dedicated office person at the landfill to ensure consistency in daily tickets, a recycling education coordinator that also covers as needed at the RRC or landfill office, and a young operator who is willing to learn and easy to work with. I have received several compliments on each of these hires, and as a result, I feel we are ready for any changes or disruptions in the future. If you look at this slide that I'm showing now, it's how we've reorganized. So it has me at the top, and then Ashley, she takes care of everything at the RRC. She oversees all those people on a daily basis. I'm still officed out of there, but she pretty much handles that. And then Julie does the HHW. Some of these staff on the bottom line there, they will jump in and help Julie as needed. So we share that staff that way rather than having to hire somebody new. And then at the landfill, I stop out there 2-3 times a week and chat with them, those guys, and try to ensure that everything's going good out there as well as communicating on the phone. So, looking forward, we'll be faced with new challenges brought on by new and more strict C&D rules being proposed by the MPCA. These rules will force the department to look at different ways and locations to handle the C&D material. Clay County, along with several other neighboring entities, are researching and developing a possible regional plan. This plan would be designed to help all involved handle their C&D material, as well as following the new guidelines, while trying to maintain a lower cost to our taxpayers. I feel with the new regulations, Clay County will be forced to look at every option for handling this material, including possible depositing in our current landfill, the purchase of a grinder, a better way to sort the material for recycling, and the regional approach. There are no perfect answers to these issues, but we are setting ourselves up to at least have options to look at before we are forced to make a final decision. In closing, my staff and I would like to thank the board for their support on all of the changes we have implemented and the equipment we need to make these changes happen. We try hard to be as efficient as possible, and without your support, we cannot continue to adjust as needed to keep the costs as low as possible for our residents. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Commissioner Ebinger.
We'd be remiss not to include you in the list of directors who have really come through. You know, you came in during a time of change. You've been part of getting the resource recovery facility open and running, and you've been there. You've restructured the staff when it was necessary. And as Commissioner Campbell pointed out, you've got partnerships, and you do an admirable job of just being quietly competent at addressing the needs. So we're grateful for that. We're grateful for your team, and this is another example. Our job's pretty easy around here.
I'd like to deflect on that a little bit. It's not me, it's my staff. They are phenomenal. If I ask a question, they have the answer right now. So everything we've done that's positive is on them, and if it's negative, I guess I'll take the blame for that. So
Well, we know how you feel.
One thing, when we go to SWAC meetings, everybody there loves talking trash.
I actually have a cup that says that. So
What's that?
I have a mug that says that.
Yeah, it's the only department where when you get an award from them, you receive a plaque with a trash can on it. Corey, job well done, and thank you for your update. And
Thank you.
continue your good work. All right, next we have a request approval to purchase electronic storage appliance. We have Rory here with us this morning. Good morning, Rory.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here this morning. So what I'm requesting this morning is a storage appliance for our backup solution. So all of our data that we back up here at the county currently goes to multiple storage appliances. This one would replace some aging appliances and faster, more robust. We still back up to this appliance, a couple different offsite locations, and a cloud location. But this would be our primary, fastest dump to get things over a weekend. Currently, we're running out of time on the weekends. We have so much data that, you know, it stretches from, say, Friday night into Sunday night, you know, Monday morning. So this would help eliminate or reduce that backup window. So we received 3 quotes on this. We'd prefer to go with the lowest quote, which was Pure Storage through Marco in Fargo. Came in at $118,617. The next closest one was roughly $2,800 more, and then the third one was $48,000 more. And this cost would be covered under our internal services.
Corey, these, obviously over the years, the amount of storage that we've been doing is just escalated at a rapid pace, right?
Yes, correct.
So on this one, is this taking us into future needs too for a while? Or?
Yep, this should get us, we've anticipated the next 5 years.
Okay.
And that would be the replacement time frame would be 5-6 year kind of period. So try to get that much, and then we purchase the same amount of warranty and support and maintenance. So the appliance will come with 5 years of that too. So typically, then at that end of that life, we'd start, you know, I'd come back again to ask for a replacement product.
So everything that we do store electronically, is it mirrored someplace else too?
It depends on what it is. We classify all of our data or servers into different tiers, you know, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 1 being the highest. So that will replicate within every couple hours. We replicate those servers to a different location. You know, not to get too detailed on it, but yeah, then we have another offsite to one of our other facilities, and then up to the cloud as well.
The reason I asked that, I mean, any piece of hardware is subject to something going wrong.
Right. Yep. And our cloud is our last resort archival if, you know, something did happen where maybe there's a fire in the building or say a natural disaster that affected our different sites.
Right.
All at once, you know, we would still have that last resort. I mean, the data's older, you know, 2 to 4 weeks old, but, you know, in a situation like that, that would be better than nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Commissioner Ebinger.
Just out of curiosity, is some of the growth a result of the additional body-worn cameras we're putting out?
They are on a different storage.
Okay.
Yep, so the new ones, they're all cloud-based. All the GTAC storage that the sheriff's office uses, the juvenile center uses, and the correctional facility, they all have the same brand, and that stores it in a secure cloud.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep, so that's not applied. Same with our, you know, our security cameras. I think we have roughly 300 security cameras throughout our buildings, and that data does not get backed up, you know, per our video retention policy at the county. It's 7 days worth of video, and we keep that 7 days, but we do not back it up any longer.
But over the years, we've transitioned, for example, in our social services to a lot of stuff that's, I think every document now, I think, is now switched and scanned electronic and.
As far as I know, yes.
And all that would be part of what's on these systems, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
so-
Some of them, yep.
Yeah, okay.
One question. Why not go to the cloud for everything?
Certain regulations, say criminal justice, for example, they have very strict guidelines, like with the Minnesota BCA, on what can and can't be on the cloud. So that's why we have different tiers and different classifications of data and where it goes. So it's kind of a mess with all the different departments and their compliances and the different requirements. You know, we have some stuff goes here, some stuff goes here, just based on those requirements. So, but ideally, the cloud's great for, you know, kind of that archive storage or archive tier of storage, but in a disaster, when you need to recover everything, it's going to be slow to recover, whereas appliance on-premise here would be, you know, with minutes versus days. So that's the big benefit of having, you know, kind of that different approach of different layers of protection.
Okay.
And you mentioned this coming out of the internal service fund, and is this I know you're maybe saying it's a year earlier or something than you anticipated, or?
Oh, no, this,
That was
everything on the internal services is past its life already. So we'd have the full amount in there for this.
Yeah, that's right, that was the guess me. All right, it's the board's wishes.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of a replacement electronic storage appliance from Marco in the amount of $118,617.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carried. All right, you're good to go.
Sure, appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, Rory. All right, item number 11 has been delayed to a future meeting, so we'll move into our committee reports. Commissioner Bear, would you like to start this?
On March 5th, the Clay County Collaborative Governments Committee, we discussed the LCTS funding, where we're going to go check to make sure the juvenile correctional workers are listed for the phone calls. That's how we collect money for the collaborative. We also discussed the carryover, which was that has been happening with the funds. We have about 48 months to spend down the carryover or give it back to the state. So we came up with a plan to spend that down over the next 4 years, because you can only you can only be out 48 months before you can have to give it back. So we're going to break that down every 4 years to spend it down. And then we came up with a plan for that. And then, applications are going out for this coming year's grant money. They're gonna open March 18th and close April 15th for both the additional funds and for the grants for 2026. And then yesterday, we had a meeting with the West Central Regional Water District. We had a phone call meeting with MDH to give them an update on the water district. And that was all my meetings.
All right, Commissioner Abier?
Right, let's see, Tuesday the 4th, I had a meeting with Rory Beal and Quinn Yeager. They gave me an update on the homeless issues that there's currently a regional group getting together to deal with them on a regional basis. And I'm kind of behind the curve on what's been happening here in the last 6-7 months. They gave me a great briefing. Quinn gave me a real breakdown on what services we've got and what funding is available and what funding we're going to continue to try and maintain. So that was a good meeting. Thursday the 6th, virtually attended the Emergency Communication Network's Legislative Committee meeting. A whole lot of the discussion was with the federal budget issues and the forecast on the state of Minnesota's budget. We are looking at really having a very conservative approach on legislation. A lot of what we're looking at right now is going to be put off to 2026 as far as requests go. They reviewed a few of the bills that may impact on us. One of them is the Brett's Law, House File 265. Basically, it requires that dispatchers identify mental health needs and have a protocol to advise the mental health crisis line if this is a mental health issue. And they have to have resources available to send other than law enforcement for people who are having mental health crisis. It provides civil penalties that are pretty extensive. And a lot of the training right now is not available. So they're trying to bring the intent of this legislation into the real world and not leave counties exposed to liability on an issue that's where the resources are either not available or it's not a realistic expectation. And then we did discuss some legislation, Senate File 1688, and I believe Representative Keeler's got a matching file that has not been put in yet, but basically it'd be a surcharge for wireless phones that would provide funding for rural emergency medical services, which is grossly underfunded right now, and that would provide a consistent funding source for it. Looking at, then yesterday I met with Administrator Larson and Commissioner Campbell, and we just had a discussion on flood mitigation. And later that day, we went out and met with the Buffalo Red River Water District folks to give them an update on some of the projects associated with the Diversion Authority, the Minnesota projects, and our efforts to get some funding for that. Also yesterday, I attended remotely the executive committee for the EDC. I can find my notes on that. Basically, it was a discussion on the Innovate 28 program. Discussion about basically division of funds between the chamber and EDC. And then we had a couple of budget addendums for training and for some other activities. And that completes my report.
All right, thank you. On March 4th, we had our Highway Tracking Committee meeting, and again, we had gone over Ann's work on the township maintenance agreement, and prior to the meeting with the township officers later that day, we just wanted to confirm that everything followed what had been same as we had in previous years. We did have Jason Benson come and join us. We had some Diversion Authority project schedule regarding project schedules. As we're aware, the Diversion Authority was hoping that some of the proposed projects that we have on the Minnesota side could be delayed in terms of bid letting until the legislative session is over, to make sure that all those projects could stay qualified for funding. And, so Jason Benson was here, and Justin, our engineer, we talked about a lot of different components of this, and I think primarily what came out of Justin's concern was two specific projects so that they wouldn't end up happening within the same time period, and that is the Wolverton project and the Comstock project. If both of them were to be done at the same time, it would require additional detouring that could end up having additional 5 miles of detours, which would not go well among some of our residents in that area. So, and I'll get a little bit more into that when I talk about the meeting we had last night that Commissioner Ebringer touched on. Then we had the motor grader issues, and then he talked about the CASA 11 concrete rehab project. The letting schedule is March 18th, and same with the CASA 34 mill and overlay project, and the 3 box culverts on March 25th. And that was into that meeting. Then later that day, we did attend the meeting with the township officers, where Justin did provide the townships with the new contract amounts and went over it in detail and did a very nice job, and the township officers really had no questions on that, so they were satisfied with where that was. On March 6th, we had a Moorhead Clay County Joint Powers Authority Board meeting, MCC-JPA, which is diversion related. We did receive as always, a property acquisition status report. We received a Minnesota litigation action update. Those are things that are being handled through the courts. And then, then we did have an executive session regarding purchase of property and settlement negotiations. And then we came out of those, out of that executive session, and action was taken that approved property negotiations on 11 different parcels that were agreed to, and based on negotiated agreements, the MCC-JPA did approve that. And that is a real milestone in that area. And there was a lot of work done by diversion team members, and also a lot of cooperation from the landowners involved. And we extended our appreciation to all of them for those efforts. And we also did approve an additional farmland lease, and that was that for that particular meeting. On March 6th, we also had a solid waste advisory committee meeting. As Corey brought up, the land gem gas detector, we'd had discussion about that. Corey gave an update on the solid waste landfill, a lot of different projects that are going on, both at the transfer station and at the landfill. He gave a very good update on that, and that was it for that. And then yesterday afternoon, I met with Steve and Commissioner Ebinger, basically in discussions about preparing for going before the Buffalo Red Board last night to have discussions about basically what has been the diversion authority's request, again, for a delay in bid letting on projects on the Minnesota side to allow for the funding to have a chance to be successful. Once something goes to bid, then you know, the funding is no longer able to be used. So, so we did go to the Buffalo Red Board last night, and I want to commend Steve for he kind of set the stage, gave a lot of background. We were there to answer any additional questions, and you know, the significant projects on the Minnesota side that you know we talked about was the Georgetown levee project. That one there was really no concern, even from the standpoint of our engineer, and delay with that. As a matter of fact, I think there's still some design work that's being done with that, and there still needs to be the approval through MnDOT. So all of the, you know, so that for us to go to bid on that right now is not crucial. And then of course, then we have the Comstock Lagoon, and then we have the Comstock road agreement that we have that goes through from Highway 75 to the east, to the outer edges of Comstock city limits. That is also, it's within our 5-year plan, but the funding is fully required by the diversion or the state of Minnesota. And then the other large one, and then there's also the Comstock Lagoon, and then the other large one that's there, probably the most costly of all of them, is the Wolverton project. I believe that one is at like $16 million, or 11. It was, yeah, $16 million. And so in talking with the engineer, so last night we had a really good update to them, and then there was some questions, and the Buffalo Red engineers really didn't seem to have a problem with delaying the bid letting on any of these. They weren't quite ready yet with the Wolverton project. They had hoped that they could have it done this spring, but they're running into their own problems, one of them being with the railroad, which should be no surprise to anybody, that can be complicated and takes longer than one would think. So as we left, I think there was no formal action taken on the part of the Buffalo Red, but they basically, the board president basically did comment to their engineers to work with the diversion engineers and our county engineers on timelines that could work with everybody's needs. So what we got out of that was that they were okay with the diversion's request to delay bid letting on projects that are significant or basically under the umbrella of the Buffalo Red Watershed District. Having said that, they also made it clear that, that there is a settlement agreement and all of these projects still will need to be done according to the settlement agreement. And then there's some other MOUs out there. So in short, that's kind of where that's at. So last night I did forward a message to Jason Benson and the Diversion Authority Board Chair, Tony Grinberg, that, and I also included Bernie Dardis, who's the Finance Chair, as they look at this, that it seems that there's willingness on the part of the Buffalo Red in terms of, accepting their request to delay bids. I did put one note in there that the one issue remaining that we're uncertain of was the concerns that our engineer had regarding the Comstock project. And as you heard this morning, Justin mentioned that he did get the final two easements signed for that project. And one of the landowners, one of the questions they said, they said that project is going to be done this year, and Justin did tell him that was kind of out of his control, but so we'll have to make sure that there's no more hiccups there, and that one can, because right now Justin had planned on that going to bid maybe in April, so we'll see, but I don't know, Steve or Dave, if you have anything more to comment on that, but overall, I think the Buffalo Red was willing to work with the Diversion Authority on those timelines.
Yeah, I think they were happy that we came in and had the discussion early in the game and not leave them out of the loop. And obviously, there's a real intent on the part of members of this commission to keep them in the loop. So we'll continue to do so.
Steve, do you have anything you want to add on that?
Nothing else. You did a great job explaining how it went.
All right, that concludes my report. Steve?
Last Tuesday, participated in highway tracking, which has been well covered. I had a meeting with Brian Melton that afternoon on a series of county issues. On the 5th, I met with Darren and talked about several of the departments that he oversees. On the 6th, I participated in the IGR meeting. DGF Schools is hosting this year, and so we met out in Glendon. We reviewed the Intergovernmental Retreat Conference, which was well received. We talked about some of the legislative impacts that would potentially be there for both city, county governments and school districts. We talked about the farm to school and also truancy challenges that the schools are facing, and have reached out to Quinn to ask him to come to an upcoming meeting to talk about some of the programming things that are happening here at the county. On the 6th, we had a MCIT administrative group. We talked through our risk management, our compliance committee, our quarterly assessments, safety committee, and again, just really pleased with the work that Joe has started with, but we also have Sarah, and each department has leaders that kind of brings all of our different risk things together, areas that we've did that maybe were a little disjointed are now under one group, and I think that's been a great thing for the county. They're going to be coming to the board here in the next few weeks just to kind of provide some oversight of all the different things that they've been doing. On the 6th, I met with Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Mojo in regards to some flood topics. On the 6th, participated in the MCC JPA meeting, which has been well covered. Also participated in the Township maintenance contract review. Again, appreciate Justin and Ann's work. The 7th, participated in a flood mitigation check-in with the chamber, FM Chamber at City of Moorhead, on the legislative funding requests, and then also met with Representative Keeler in regards to our non-secure detention on PRTF funding. We are going to be having some additional counties who are going to be joining our resolution of support here in coming weeks, and so we're hoping to have be able to present before the legislature here in the coming weeks about and share the good things that we have going here. Let's see, the 7th also had a flood mitigation meeting with MMB documentation and the DNR that was sent in as requested for the funding possibilities. On the 10th, we met with representatives from MDH that has been covered in regards to the water district. And then also the meetings yesterday in regards to the Buffalo Red. I would just also want to point out we have a meeting next week. Our township officials meeting will be held at the Law Enforcement Center starting at 8:30. And so we'll have several presenters from our departments providing updates. And then just lastly, I think that just wanted to point out appreciate the recognition that this board has provided, not just today, but at the updates this year and throughout the years. I think that one of the things that's important is this board holds our departments and administration to a high level of accountability. Having said that, you also provide them opportunities to do well at what they do. And so whether that's training, Commissioner Campbell, you talked about when department heads come before us, they're involved, whether it's regional, state, associations, we're fortunate to have those leaders. And they're able to do that because of your support. And so I think the great things that with that support and that feeling becomes as you have people like Corey who are working hard to find different ways. Not that all of our staff aren't doing that, but there's that extra incentive because they appreciate all the support that you give. And so I just wanted to make sure I also pointed that out. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Darren, do you have anything for us today?
Very briefly, on the 5th, I met with Corey to discuss some numbers concerning the Moorhead contract out of this RRC. Later that day, I met with Mark Sloan and Brian Melton, referenced the county code. We're kind of looking at that and trying to update that. On the 6th, I went to the SWAC meeting as well, which has already been covered. On the 7th, I had a meeting with UKG in our transition to Pro Talent implementation, so I worked on that also on Friday afternoon. And yesterday, I worked on some of the forms of transferring our forms from Jot Form and Seamless Docs over to Civic Plus forms, and looked at creating some testimony for the paid family medical leave, which could be given on Thursday, I believe. So that concludes my report.
Jackie, do you have anything for us this morning? No? All right. All right, we are adjourned.